That's our SMS line, and if you're on social media, please use the hashtag #OpinionCourt. It allows us to track your conversation. You can find us on @Citizen TV Kenya or @Citizen TV News, and on Facebook going by that same name. Let me reintroduce my panel to you. To my immediate right is the man on strike, the Kenya National Union of Teachers Secretary General Wilson Sossion. In the middle is our resident political analyst Edward Kisiangani, who also happens to be an educationist, and across from me is education expert Janet Ouko. You are all welcome to the program. Janet, let me begin with you because I know you feel strongly about education matters, and every time we've spoken, you know, on this program, you have insisted on the need for radical reform, which includes the way teachers' matters are handled in this country, I suppose, and their pay. What would you say the cost of incessant industrial action from the 90s has been on the education sector in general? And is it your view that given the cost on Kenyan children, on our ability to perform, on teaching in schools, that it's time government just pays up?
Well, and unfortunately, I do not think that paying up is going to guarantee us a stable education sector, because we've come from far. When it is not allowances, it is harmonization. When it is not harmonization, it is something different. And it comes to a point where now parents, taxpayers, and everyone else is asking, what will satisfy the Kenyan teacher? And I think it's a question that really deserves an answer, so that we go into it knowing that we give 50 to 60% salary increase, and then we have a deal that is the next 4 to 5 years, we've got a stable education sector. Because I think it goes beyond satisfying the teacher to even looking at it from what are we getting as taxpayers, because this 50 to 60%, let Kenyans understand that is not a matter of just government giving it. It's going to boil down to us. We are actually going to be paying the amount of money. So what is in it for us? What are we talking about? What is it based on? Productivity? We have research showing that our children are not reading at all. You have a class 7 child who cannot be able to handle class 2 work. And I think, with all due respect, I really want teachers to be, I've said this before, because we cannot underestimate, and we cannot even talk about it more, at the role of a well-motivated teacher. But in our own case, it's different. We appear to just be talking about one side of the coin and pushing it so hard, but when it comes to us asking, all right, give us back. For example, can we discuss issues about teacher absenteeism? Can we discuss that? Then there's so much venom about it. Can we discuss issues about, you know, teachers just, you know, making themselves better? For example, one would ask you, if a class 7 cannot handle class 2 work, what was that teacher doing all along? If that child was left on their own, probably they would get the same results. So a teacher has to justify what they've been doing with a child for the entire 8 years for us to be able to understand. And unfortunately, it is time that Kenyans held a very candid discussion with our teachers, with all due respect, without this blackmail of teachers do a lot, teachers have come from so far, everyone has been molded by a teacher. Let that blackmail be put very far, and let's have a very candid discussion about productivity. Let's have a very candid discussion about value for money that taxpayers pay.
Let me interject there, because one of the rulings out of the numerous court cases that has come out of this is that, you know, teachers' salaries needed to be harmonized with that of other civil servants, so that even if you're talking about a pay increment, that you're starting from a, you know, a similar baseline. So what I'm not hearing clearly, I beg your pardon, from you is, you do not think that teachers deserve any pay rise, or are you disputing that 50 to 60% does not guarantee stability in the education sector?
Both arguments, because I think what has not been told to us, and I think one of the things that government greatly fail is in terms of public relations. What is the role of taxpayers? Do we have any information, for example? Why 50 to 60%? Why not 100%, for example? Why not 1%? What is the rationale of this 50 to 60%? Because there has to be accountability, because we are the people footing these bills. So there are some discussions that we must hold. Remember the time that they were on strike the other time and they were asking for some percentage? We were asking them, okay, what is it based on? Is it informed by probably the way the economy has performed? Is it based on that, no, our teachers have done wonderful work and therefore they deserve 50 to 60%? I think, with all honesty, there is need to have those discussions.
And that, of course, the 50 to 60 I'm referring to, that was granted by the court. It's not government's agreement. That was a court ruling. The government is disputing. When you hear Janet speak this way, and she's basically saying, how can we guarantee that this 50 to 60 that the court has awarded will be enough for teachers, and that we won't see further industrial action? What guarantees can you offer? Are there any?
No, indeed, I can't give any guarantee. What we are talking about here is mismanaged industrial relations in the education sector. The lasting solution to peace in any employment sector is good labor practices. Once we have good labor practices, then we can have a guarantee of industrial peace. The 50 to 60 has even been disputed by government. And what is 50 to 60? That government has gone round to whip lies and incite the public and try to mislead Kenyans. And we still see an array of misunderstanding across the board. 50 to 60% salary rise, which was awarded by the court, is the workings of the government. It is the working of the Teacher Service Commission. And what was granted and as a conditional stay, because the Labor Relations Court awarded 50 to 60 for the correct period of the CBA, 1st July 2013 to 3rd June 2017. And the CBA is a right to all the workers. And that being the period of our CBA, then it's not negotiable. It's a constitutional right. We don't negotiate constitutional rights. And when TSC felt aggrieved and government, and of course it's good for the public and everyone to know that it is the Teacher Service Commission that took us to court. We did not take them to court. We were more than willing to negotiate at the table. The 50 to 60 conditional pay. That it be
met on a certain date.
Yes, these are court orders with timelines, and they are expected to have paid with effect from 1st of August, a single installment. And this installment translates to 1.3 billion for all the teachers, because it's not 91 billion, the lies that we are seeing, the incitement that we still see, some stakeholders still do not understand up to now. And of course, it's subjected to tax. So the take home per month by teachers is 900 million shillings. And if we get down to specific figures, and I'll get down to some specific grades. Let me go to the lowest grade of teachers. A current P1 teacher earns 16,600 shillings. And the take home after the payment of this installment, which has been contested, is an additional 2,500 shillings, which is subjected to further taxation. Indeed, that still is meager. And the figures in contention about the teachers' benefits is not derived from the blues. It is not derived on productivity, because productivity is something that not anybody can introduce. An instrument is well done by TSC through appraisal systems. Teachers have been subjected to the same. It is derived from consumer price indices. And during these arguments that we've gone through in courts, and we canvassed very well, the Ministry of Labour, the Central Planning Unit, computed the consumer price indices, and the indications were that the teachers deserve 128%. That is 137 billion. And what the court offered is, in fact, is far too low. It needs to be revised.
So,
and even in the ruling,
I beg your pardon,
it needs
because
to be revised.
You are sort of monopolizing a bit of the conversation, but just to get you right, you are conceding to what Janet is saying, that even after this payout and a subsequent one, and of course, I believe this was to be done over 4 years, that there's no guarantee that this is what this is a payment that will make teachers finally now say, we're not going to keep using children as a bargaining chip to down our tools.
Let's not mix issues. And here, teachers are not using children as a bargaining chip. This is wrong notion. What teachers have done is purely to withdraw labor.
At the most critical time of the school term.
It's by coincidence, because
we've
been running through.
Did you not know that students were to sit for examinations
last year, let
in
me
a
take
week
you
or
back
two?
to history, because we don't need to ruin our memory. Our memory must serve us right. Last year, we would have actually gone on strike in the month of October, but we read the mood of the public, and we said, yes, let us be benevolent enough and be patient and we engage
another
in this
coincidence
activity.
that would have
Of
collided with the
course,
examination.
I think,
and of
be
course,
fair,
too well in the month of
here.
January. Too well in the month of January, we were engaged in this activity, which was never resolved. Instead of being resolved, the same government used certain stakeholders to hold us through court. We were in court, and since, and you know, ruling was given on 30th. TSC moved the court. Another ruling was given in the month of July. TSC has defied. They've been in court. You can't expect us to suspend it so that we look like benevolent people. It's a constitutional right, and this is a court order with a timeline. I don't think it makes any sense at all for the employer and for government to engage in impunity and disobey a court order. Because we don't think there is any other option that anybody has in this country, whether it's ourselves or the government, not to disobey court orders. And that is what we are squarely contesting. And we have no apologies to offer over that one.
Prof.
And you're not about to go back to class, by the way.
You know, listening to the two distinguished fellows contribute to this debate, I just feel, you know, funny in my mind. Starting with with Janet. I don't think, Janet, your status in this society is big enough, so you can't be so frivolous about this matter and, you know, narrow everybody's thinking to just contract. You know very well that the education sector requires a lot of reforms. If we are going to look at the payment of teachers in the narrow sense of have they got contract, why are you not asking Serem? Why are you not asking Nzomo?
No, I think you got this wrong. I think you got this wrong.
Just wait, I finish because you had your idea. Yeah. The questions, there are certain specific questions which you don't ask other sectors, but you ask teachers. But in my opinion,
like what, Prof?
You know, when it reaches the teachers, they say, you know, our children are not learning. So, are teachers teaching?
Look at a professor contesting with you.
Are you suggesting that
yes,
you're saying the Kenyan children may actually be a little slow on the uptake?
I'm moving out of that point, but the reason why I'm giving that example is this. We cannot solve the teachers' problem because the questions you pose are critical. We cannot just solve the teachers' problem in isolation to what's happening across the country because there are also other people who are asking for pay rise. I have maintained on this show that the best way to deal with this problem is to get to what Russia did in 1917.
What they do, Prof?
Russia under Lenin said, we are now removing the Tsarist regime in 1917. What we want to do is we want to structure this economy under the producer category and the consumer category. If you look at our spirit in this country, we are going towards Vision 2030, which means we want a producer-oriented economy. Then we say that when children are taken to school, parents should tell their children whether they want to be producers of wealth or consumers of wealth. And we identify sections of this society that are, you know, tuned towards production, and we say that is where we shall put our money, including salaries, including research. That's where we put our money. I'm sure if we do that, people will not complain about
and
salary.
And that will guide the budget allocation.
Before we get there, we are here.
Wait, Janet, you sometimes get so agitated. You should be patient when I'm talking. You see, once we talk about that, Anne, it is easier to pay doctors without complaint. It might be easier to pay teachers without complaint. It will be easier to pay agriculturalists without complaint. But as long as it is somebody's whimsical thinking, when somebody is paid money, you start rationalizing and saying, are they teaching? First of all, it is government which has resisted reforms.
But the education sector does actually receive some of the highest budget allocations.
But it is full of education sector is full of people who consume money. They are consumers of wealth.
I hear you.
But
I think also, and it's extremely, extremely important for anybody speaking, especially through a national television, for them to disclose their interest. Because especially knowing the constituencies that some people come from, especially Professor here, and I know for sure.
Have you ever taught?
I haven't taught.
If you have not taught, what I'm saying is, I know, and the pattern is there. All of us have been Kenyan. You don't need to teach some of these issues. After Kenya National Union of Teachers
is a series of strike, and this has happened. It is UASO that is going to be next. The university lecturers are going to be asking for something, and therefore you can almost see the argument where it is going. But that notwithstanding, I think the facts are very clear, and what we are saying here is that we are not blaming Sossion, and that's why I've been saying, let's be very fair. If there is anybody who has done their job, it is Sossion. He has ensured that he has pushed the teacher's agenda to the highest limit. The person who has failed here is government, because government does not know who they want to employ, at what cost, and what they are offering.
Correct.
I think that is the issue here, and it's government that has failed us, and that is why we are saying we are not going as taxpayers, because I think it's time Kenyans became very proactive. It is not just a matter, because government has been used to solving teachers' problems politically, and it becomes very expensive for us. Can we have practical problems that are also very professional? So that we are saying,
solutions, right?
Yes, practical solutions. Because even if you give the teachers what you want to give them now, you will call them and sit down and you will say 20%.
Right.
What will happen is that second term, they will be up. Third term, they will be up. Until they meet this 50 to 60%. What are we doing to the children? Even if we don't care about destroying money, because sometimes politicians don't care, it's not their money. We are destroying generations. That is what we are saying. We are destroying generations.
What do you think, Janet, what I'm suggesting? That part of the solution to what you are suggesting is for us to rethink at national level how to restructure this economy, because this economy
but that cannot happen overnight. You see, it cannot happen overnight. We have children in school that need to be taught. That is why I'm encouraging you, Professor, not to think 10 years to come. We can't keep children at home waiting for 4 years for us to restructure the economy.
So let me just bring this home. Hold on. This cannot be a shouting match, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Let me just bring what Janet is saying home and pose the question to you. So you are agreeing with me that in fact there is a moral cost or a moral question when children have to stay home. So we weren't out of line in posing that question to begin with. But let me put it to you this way, Sossion, because you have already agreed that 50 to 60 is not enough. And anyone who's watching this program really just wonders what will be the end of this. At what point will teachers be satisfied with a certain pay increment or rise? So what is it exactly that you want?
First to begin with, what the court has awarded and the framework that is guided is a collective bargaining agreement. Once we sign a collective bargaining agreement, that will be good enough for us. We'll proceed.
For how long?
And it's very clear, it's guided, 4 years. And it has been guided, that is from 1st July 2013 to 30th of June 2017. Before then, we should be able to develop another CBA that spans another 4 years, guided by the consumer price index. It's not done from the blue, and guided by the sustainability of the economy.
Every 4 years?
If we agree, yes, every 4 years.
There will be a strike, is what you're saying.
If we were to agree, and we must agree, then there will be no strikes about, there would probably be strikes.
But you're saying every 4 years you're going to ask for more money, and if government does not agree, there will be a strike every 4 years.
We are entitled to a collective bargaining agreement.
Yes, but you know, my brother, if you go that way, you will not win this war. The right way for you to go is this. Even when you are negotiating every 4 years, which category do you belong? Are you a consumer of Kenya's wealth, or you are a producer of Kenya's? If you are a consumer, the formula will be a different one. And that's what SRC should be doing today, to say, who are we paying for doing what?
For doing what?
Because that is where the problem is. A lot of money is going to wrong things.
Yeah, but I think also, in terms of control.
Yes, Prof, I agree with you.
Yes.
Yeah, here we are not getting things right, and this is where leadership is failing. And institutions that were created by the Constitution to protect the rights of the people of Kenya are being misused to advance interests that we don't know they represent who.
Like here, TSC?
We are talking. Of course, we are failing at TSC. Because this is supposed to be an independent and constitutional commission, but has abdicated its responsibility to another body that is very busy misleading the public. And this is wrong. This is not what we fought for by creating these institutions through the Constitution, and the same institutions have got concurrent powers. Number one, there must be due compliance with the Constitution, and there should be no confusion about it. And these are matters that have been isolated and guided properly by the court. But then, what precedents are we setting as a leadership? That as a leadership, we cannot comply with court orders, especially government institutions. We will never see the sense of taking responsibility of protecting our resources and guaranteeing productivity and guaranteeing quality services to the citizenship of this country. We are talking, when we talk about resources, and let's look at it roughly, the elephant in the house. We're not talking about corruption, but we see corruption every day. We have seen a wheelbarrow costing 109,000. We are very keen to see that scientific wheelbarrow, how much it costs.
You're saying there's money to pay, is what you're saying.
A Facebook of 4 million shillings, opening a Facebook wall, a gate of 28 million. Yeah. There's corruption all over the place.
Let me help you.
And this is where we are losing out.
Let him finish.
And lastly, tax evasion. The tax evasion is astronomical. It's in terms of billions of shillings. At least 137 billion. If we were responsible in eliminating corruption, tax evasion, let me tell you, Kenyans don't need to pay even an additional cent of tax to pay teachers and deliver services. If we did that, every household will not pay even a single cent for education and health, and will deliver the same.
Fair enough. You're
so
saying,
I agree. I share with Professor.
Okay.
We need some.
You're saying the money is there. You're saying the money is there. I must cut you short, sir, because we are out of time. You know, the object of this conversation this evening was to determine what will it take to get you back to class, and you have said that's nothing short of, you know, this money is being paid up. But what is perhaps more worrying to anyone who has watched this at home is that you have also said every 4 years there shall be a strike if your pay is not increased. I want to come to you all with a final round of comments. Janet, what can substantively be done to see, even if there is an industrial dispute, that it does not have the moral cost of keeping children who've been studying all this time ready for the examinations at home? What can be done to sort it out once and for all, or will his prophecy come true that 4 years from now back again?
Yeah, I think it has to get to a point where we are more committed to the Constitution, and I'm exactly speaking to the President of this Republic. He has to get committed to the delivery of the right to quality education for every child. And he has to do everything it takes to ensure that the education sector is stable. And I just want to give him one suggestion. My brother here, Sossion, has talked about goodwill. And it is clear that the education trade unions have abused the goodwill that government has had with them. Because if you ask me today, government collects for Kenya National Union of Teachers huge amounts of money and delivers for them at the cost of the taxpayer. Why? Because there is goodwill. Because every registered union has, it is the exchequer has to submit to the union, and it's based on goodwill. But if that goodwill is abused, there's something the Minister for Labour can do. Because we have to get there to secure education. You cannot continue strengthening somebody who is very busy destabilizing your kitchen.
You're saying crack the whip on Wilson, Sossion and co.
It has to be done.
Prof, so at the end of it, what shall it be?
You see, there is no shortcut about this. We must restructure the economy. I have said we look at it in a bigger way because there are so many people who are asking these questions. And then when we restructure the economy, education will fall in. One of the things that the president has not done very well as the head of state is that he has failed to take care of the leakages, to seal the loopholes in the misuse of revenue. So therefore, if you look at what happened recently when the teachers went on strike, you just take a gander at the various statements that were released. Mutaba Musimi said, let Parliament pay, and then let Treasury pay. We shall formalize that. The Deputy President said teachers should be patient, and then as we look for money, we shall to pay them. And then Rotich, the man in the Treasury, says there is no money. Is this the same government? Does it even know what it is doing with regard to this economy? So that means that probably there is money. And they know that money is being wasted. The moral part of it, because you have raised this moral matter very much, if the government was able to punish those who are corrupt, if the government was able to seal the loopholes where money is going and you hear about KQ, Mumias, nobody is inside, is put in, and that is done, the government will have more authority to come to teachers and say, yes, we have only this, can you accept we pay this and this? It can go to doctors and we all share the pain. But we have not been sharing the pain. A lot of people are moving on trips in this country, making money from left to right in Kisumu and Mombasa, but you cannot complain about them. So this is where the problem is. The president has failed us.
Seal the loopholes and restructure the economy.
Restructure the economy, seal the loopholes. If he wants, he can join us. We can help him. If he has people who cannot help him, we can help him.
Services offered for God and country. Thank you very much. Finally, Wilson, and because I am a parent, I will ask from that perspective, do you see the day where you can have these very robust, if you like, negotiations? You're doing your job. That will not cost
indeed, we are looking
the
forward.
student. That will not cost the student.
Indeed, we are looking forward to the day. And I want to correct the assertions of Janet Muthoni. And I don't want to believe that you have been sent by somebody to speak on behalf of someone else. And the truth is, union dues to unions is a contribution, voluntary decision of members, and remission of such, it's called third-party deduction, is the duty of the employer, and it's within law.
They're not
so
doing
it's
you
not
a favor.
negotiable.
Fair enough.
It's not a favor, and it goes back to the services of members, and that does not come to government. It's not grants from government, and that has to be correct.
Fair enough. If you, Janet, I don't want to reopen the conversation. Let me make his final remarks.
Yeah, in terms of labor relations, we're extremely desirous to see sound labor relations. But we are so worried across the board. If you look at it at the moment, this is no longer an industrial action of teachers. It shall be a full-scale industrial action of all workers, because there is definitely something wrong within governance, within management of labor relations. And you cannot expect a country to offer quality labor services when you are undermining the same labor services. You are not recognizing the skills.
So what you're saying to me,
you are betting
what you are saying is that you do not foresee a day when you will be able to vehemently present your point without it costing
we think the direction we have taken, I want to believe, because we are desirous. Strike is the last option that any labor movement must opt to. We don't hurry to it. We take time. We took 26 meetings. We've been in 3 or 5 different three levels of court, and about 6 cases, and you can see, you can appreciate the patience. And I would like to believe by the time we take this issue through this process, because in any case we've won all the cases against government, that means we have a valid case, and our valid case cannot be dismissed.
Fair
we
enough.
want to believe it's going to be lesson enough for government, for other employers, that they must respect the laws, they must respect labor laws, they must recognize workers, value their services, compensate their services in accordance with the Constitution and labor laws. That we are not going to negotiate. Otherwise, if we don't go that direction, then somebody is inviting a revolution.
And so we are done on that, if you like, very ominous tone from Wilson Sossion, the Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Teachers, Edward Kisiangani, our resident political analyst, and Janet Ouko, an educationist. I thank you all for your time and your views. We're back with more news after this.